printed statement will be made part of the record, and we'll have a little Q&A afterwards. But thank you for coming. We look forward to your testimony.
Thank you, Chairman Spratt, for hearing from us today, and thank you, Congressman Berry, as well. I appreciate the opportunity to be here. I'd like to take a few moments to focus the committee on what's going on along the U.S.-Mexico border, which seems very far from Washington. I hail from Tucson, a community that is directly impacted by the effects of illegal immigration. My district includes about a 114-mile section of the 2,000-mile U.S.-Mexico border. As you can imagine, Arizona has faced unimaginable consequences of the immigration crisis. Last year, 387,000 illegal immigrants were apprehended in Arizona. That's approximately 1,000 illegal immigrants every single day. It's really hard to see what that impact looks like until you go down there and you speak with the local law enforcement agencies, because in many times, in many cases, these are the folks that are directly handling what is primarily the federal government's responsibility. The Tucson sector, which I represent, is the most porous of all of the sectors along the 2,000 miles. We are responsible for apprehending about 48% of all of the legal drugs and narcotics that are coming into the border area as well. Tucson has now become the major clearinghouse for not just marijuana, but now methamphetamines. So again, the impacts in terms of local crime, murder rates, all of that drug trafficking doesn't just pass through Arizona, it stays there and has direct impacts as well. Securing our nation's borders, I believe, is the federal government's responsibilities, and obviously it falls within the jurisdiction of the federal government. Under federal law, the government has two options. First of all, it can handle directly undocumented criminals. It can take them into federal custody, or it can compensate the state and local jurisdictions for doing so. Where the federal government relies on local law enforcement, it is supposed to reimburse our local municipalities in a program called SCAAP, State Criminal Alien Assistance Program. Now, as you know, the SCAAP funding was first created in 1994, but this program has been consistently underfunded. Therefore, the cost for incarcerating folks that are here illegally are borne directly by our counties. Some of these counties, like mine in southern Arizona, are among the poorest in the nation. They are already operating with slim budgets and slim staffing. Communities throughout southern Arizona are now facing some extraordinary costs as it relates to the incarceration of illegal immigrants. Cochise County, a county that's well known for Tombstone, Arizona, for Douglas, Arizona, Bisbee, some really historic, interesting parts of the country, submitted a bill for $234,501 for reimbursable expenses last year and only received $98,000 from the federal government. This $98,000 reflects just a portion of the costs of what they actually go through. The Pima County Jail, Pima County where Tucson is was located, is used to detain 200 illegal immigrants who have been arrested on felony charges including murder, rape, and robbery. According to Sheriff Dupnick, the sheriff of Pima County, these illegal immigrants take up about 10% of the cell space in our counties. The cost to the sheriff's department is $13,000 each day for incarceration alone. This amounts to about $390,000 per month, over $4.7 million per year. The reimbursement that Sheriff Dupnick reports from current SCAAP funding is less than 3% of the total cost. Some of these prisoners also have additional health problems like tuberculosis, other diseases that are infectious as well. So you can see just the amount of medical funding that goes into the detention. This week, Arizona's Governor Janet Napolitano came to Capitol Hill to talk about funding for SCAAP and realizing that the current authorization is at $950 million. In her testimony before the Senate Finance Committee, she had noted that the federal government now owes Arizona, for lack of prior funding, over $419 million. So I think this is outrageous that we are expecting our state and local municipalities to do the work of federal law enforcement, but we're not paying them. And as we know, those local sheriffs, those local municipalities are the folks that are responding, the first responders to our local citizens when they have problems as well. On February 8th, I addressed a letter signed by 47 members of the House to Chairman Spratt and Ranking Member Ryan, highlighting the President's failure to include any funding for SCAAP in the fiscal year 2009 budget proposal. Frankly, Mr. Chairman, I think that we can do better. We know that we're facing an illegal immigration crisis in our country. We're underfunding SCAAP. The President is overburdening our state and our local governments. So I urge the committee to reject the President's cuts to SCAAP and ask you that you prioritize America's safety when it comes to the hundreds of thousands of people that are coming into our borders illegally. The majority are coming for work and economic reasons. We understand that. But there is a criminal element, and we know that because we run background checks, and we know, again, the murder rate, the drug trafficking. This is a real life scenario for people in my district in southern Arizona and across the U.S.-Mexico border. And of course, the ramifications continue to flow across the nation. So I appreciate this opportunity to come and testify for the committee today. I ask you to support the SCAAP funding, to increase the SCAAP funding, because it really is the difference between life and death for people in my district and across the country.
Thank you for very compelling testimony. It's consistent with what we've already heard from the two witnesses that preceded you. The cuts that this administration has made in this budget resolution are deep and hurtful, particularly to local government and to regional government. And here's a program that simply cannot be, the need for it cannot be overstated. State criminal alien adjustment. If you're going to do anything about immigration, it starts at the border, securing the borders, and it starts dealing with criminal elements and those who are coming here illegally. And this is the one federal program that specifically addresses that. And it's not being cut, it's being eliminated, wiped out completely, which begs lots of questions. Among them is, what is the administration's position on immigration? Thank you very much. Your testimony is very effective, and it'll be taken to heart as we go through this budget.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. I appreciate the opportunity.
Mr. Berry?